Only I clap. You haven't been trained on how to clap, so you just keep your hands to yourself.
Only I may dance.
Yeah. Only I may dance. It's like weird dance. Okay. Let's start this off. Hello and welcome to the very first episode, the official first episode of our podcast, our new podcast, which is going to be called Recently Watched. Now, it's a show that we've been doing for years. We've just never filmed it.
Yeah, it's already been going for several years over the phone.
Right. I think we're on episode 10,000 at this point.
Yeah.
It would have been nice had we recorded any of that. And where did all this start?
It just started with, because we live so far away, I live about 2 hours away.
More like 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would just catch up every week and literally call each other up on the phone and say, what have you recently watched?
Which,
and just like TV shows, movies, that kind of thing. And it's always fascinating to chat that stuff. And it turned into a really interesting list that you constructed for yourself of media that you've been trying to watch. So why don't you explain?
So we are both huge pop culture geeks. And specifically, we both watch a shit ton of movies and TV shows. Now, but one of us is a real demon when it comes to how much he watches.
Yeah, I would say you definitely outpace me.
Just a little bit. just a little bit. Right. Yeah. And I tend to watch just a monstrous amount of movies and television. I watch lots and lots, as you know.
Yeah.
And this is partly where this came from, where I had so much stuff that I watched. I wanted to talk to you about all of it. So I have a couple lists that I keep on my phone at all times. This is going to reveal some of my mental illness here, but why not? So I have an active film watch list.
Yep.
And the active film watch list is a list of movies that I either haven't seen. So there's things I want to watch, not I already watched.
Yeah.
So on this list is some stuff that I've never seen before and some things that I'm going to rewatch. So I have seen them before, but they need to be rewatched.
Okay, so it's all mixed together. Some of it you've seen before.
Right.
Some of it's totally new.
Right. And the way I watch things is I constantly add to this list because I read and watch all kinds of YouTube videos on like different films and television shows.
You'll see a trailer, you'll see someone mention something.
Or I'll read an article of like, I don't know, 10 hidden gem sci-fi movies from the 70s or some shit like that. And I go, oh, what's that? I'll add that to my list. Or I'll watch a trailer.
Yep.
So I am constantly adding to this master watch list. And so anytime I've got free time where I go, okay, I'm in the mood for a television show, or I'm in the mood for a movie, or I'm in the mood for an anime. Because anime is kind of its own flavor. Then I go refer to this list and I'll pick something.
Yeah. So when you sit down for the evening, you're like, I'm going to watch something tonight. You pop open this list and then you select something.
Just whatever I'm in the mood for.
And you're not rigid with like, you
order?
have to go in order.
No. There's things that have been on this list for like over a year that I just still have not been in the mood to watch.
Yeah. So if it's like a horror thing, maybe you're not in the mood to watch a horror movie. You want to watch a musical.
Yeah, because this is all over the board. Like the last two entries that I added for movies are like Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, like the original, like the one from the 60s.
Yeah, the 60s, like crime sort of cop.
So like that's
movie,
so it's not just new movies or anything like that. Like the years of these movies are all over the board. And then I've got The Whale, like the new Brandon Fraser one.
Yeah.
Did you know his name was Fraser, not Frasier?
Fraser?
Yeah.
Brandon
Fraser.
I think I've been calling him Frasier.
Yeah, I know. Everybody did. It's Fraser.
Fraser.
Yeah. He like now that he got big again.
Yeah.
He was on an interview and like literally like for the first time ever called it out. It was like, yeah, basically the world's been saying my name wrong for years and I kind of just let it happen. But yeah, it's Brandon Fraser.
Interesting.
Yeah, not Frasier. I think everybody started saying Frasier because Frasier was on the air.
Yeah.
But it's not spelt the same. See, Frasier's I-E-R.
Yeah.
I believe. I might be making that up. Let me look that up, folks.
Interesting.
Yes. See? IER.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frasier. Kelsey Grammer. Oh, good Lord. Have you seen that clip?
No.
You didn't know what that was?
No.
Oh, it's an infamous clip where he fell off a stage and
Oh.
where he was like, I don't know.
Tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
It's like a funny clip of him walking off a stage and he has the most gentlemanly, like, oh, fuck. He goes, oh, good Lord.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. We can watch that, actually. Hold
Yeah,
on
we
a sec.
should.
Do you want to?
I do want to see
All
that.
right, let me bring up Kelsey Grammer falling off. Yeah, see, the first thing is Kelsey Grammer, Jesus Revolution. I don't know what that is. Second one is Kelsey Grammer falls off stage. That's the second thing that comes up. Second result from YouTube. If you type in Kelsey Grammer. All right, let's watch this clip.
Trip through It's a Small World pretending I was a UN interpreter. Oh, good Lord. I think I'm... Wow, that was really, really bad.
That was where she's standing. That's where he fell from.
Yeah.
That's significant.
Oh, he fell like,
Yeah.
if you're in Canada, he fell like a meter. That's like a whole leg
Yeah.
length. Yeah. It's just funny because he says, oh, good Lord.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, good Lord. How many views does that have? Like 10 billion or something? I mean, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
600,000. Yeah. My videos have like 200 views in comparison.
So to go back to your list.
Yes,
so
right. So
when did this start? Like, when did you start deciding to catalog your list for future watching of like media?
when it got so overwhelming, the amount of shit I wanted to watch, where I would just forget things, and then suddenly I'd be like, oh yeah, fuck, I wanted to watch that. I just forgot about it. So
Yeah.
I was tired of that happening. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to always have a list. I've probably been doing this for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years at this point.
Yeah, because you used to, like, in high school, hoard like burnt discs and DVDs and things, and just to like create a backlog of stuff to watch.
Right.
So this is the progression of that, where now you just created this massive.
Well, now it's
list
so,
of-
because now we have smartphones. So it's so
Yeah,
easy,
yeah.
right? To just always have this list. I'm a huge list person too. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I constantly make lists.
lists of things.
I'm just a
yeah.
list person, yeah. So some people have that form of OCD. I have it bad.
So I think, as we've talked about before, there's only so much stuff you can physically watch in your lifetime.
Right.
So
Wait, we didn't get to my second list. So I've got
okay.
my first list is what I'm going to watch.
yeah,
Then after I watch something from this list, it comes off this list, and I add it to the recently watched list. Recently
yeah,
watched.
yeah.
Title
Hey.
of the podcast.
Okay.
Fuck you guys. You guys aren't funny. So then it goes on to the recently watched list, and that's literally where this podcast idea came from.
Yeah.
We were already discussing, like, this is what we were already doing all the time.
Yeah.
Is we would catch up and you'd be like, all right, what have you recently watched? And then I would just go through the list, and, sometimes one movie took the whole conversation. Sometimes I'd go through fucking 10 of them, right?
yeah,
The list consists of both movies and TV shows. Now, these are in the order that I watched them.
Okay.
So after I watch
Yeah.
something, it then goes onto this list, and it doesn't get deleted from this list until we talk about it.
awesome.
Right. So that's how that works. And this was a convenient way to remember the shit that I watched, because I watched so much shit.
Yeah,
So it was very useful to be able to recall it like later on and be like, oh yeah, I did watch, blank.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, because there's only so much time on this planet in our lifetimes
Speak for yourself.
to watch all this stuff, like all the movies and shows ever made, you've set yourself some interesting some fascinating rules, potentially controversial rules.
Very controversial rules. The first time I told you my first rule that I'm going to go over, you were like,
Yeah, I was like, what?
yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
I should start with an anecdote. There is a person that I know, who you know as well. Don't say his name.
Okay.
He used to own video stores. You know who I'm talking about now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he used to own video stores back like in the pre-Blockbuster days. And when Blockbuster came out, that was the end of his chain. And so he never got into DVDs. He ended with VHS and Beta. He actually did have Beta in his video stores.
Yeah.
And when all the stores went under and he sold off everything, he kept from the inventory of all the different rental stores.
Yeah.
He kept one copy of every movie.
Oh my
So
God.
he ended up with like tens of thousands.
A single copy of every movie of like the whole
Every different
inventory.
movie. Every
of a
different
video store.
movie. Right. Every different title.
Yeah.
He kept one of every single different title.
So he'd have a catalog of like all the movies of
Right.
like the 80s,
Right.
70s kind of thing.
Right.
Anything that was released.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so he had this like tens of thousands of tapes and he had boxes of fucking VHS tapes and Beta tapes. And I think he even might have had some, and he did have some laser discs because I got some off of him.
Yeah.
And then he had this, and his rationale was, okay, now I've got all these movies. I got all the movies in the world. I got entertainment forever now.
Mhm.
That was his thought. And he's like, I'll always be able to just watch these. And then he had a realization one day that he wouldn't live long enough to watch all of those movies.
There it is. Yeah.
And when he realized that, he got rid of them all. And now he just watches random shit.
Just
He doesn't
watches
fucking
whatever,
care anymore.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of had the realization like, oh, I can't watch all these in my lifetime. Now, he was already older. I think
You're a young man. You're healthy. you
right,
know.
exactly, yeah,
This time now.
yeah. Time is on my side.
Time
yeah.
enough at last.
But
Yeah.
because of that, I very much so value my time. So I'm very picky about what I give my time to when it comes to movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
So I have a 30-minute rule, and this was the rule that you originally argued with me about.
Yeah.
But my rule is, if I will give any movie, TV shows are different, but movies, I'll give any movie 30 minutes. So you have 30 minutes to get my attention and keep me engaged and interested. And if you can't make that happen in 30 minutes, done. I turn off the movie.
You're
Stop
out.
it. I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
out. Because I'm
so
only,
from pressing play within 30 minutes,
right.
you're sort of,
That's when
you're
I'm going
either
to make the
engaged
call.
or you're not.
I'm either in or out.
Like
and
if you check your phone and you're like, it's been a half hour.
then I'm out.
What am I doing here?
I'm wasting my time. That's
Yeah.
the way I look at it is I'm wasting my time.
That's sort of a gut feeling that
Right.
you're like, you know what I mean? You're like, I'm not really enjoying this. So you
Right.
check. That's when you pick up the phone. You're
Right.
like, okay.
And this
that
is
kind of thing.
extremely subjective. Like, let's be
Yeah.
clear. This is if it keeps my interest. I don't give a fuck if it keeps your interest. Like, this is for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I'm not watching movies for other people. I'm watching it for myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for things that are going to go into my collection, things I think are collection worthy, right?
So the idea is that you're building like the collection of Justin Ashley. Like
Bingo.
Justin, the library of Justin
Bingo.
is getting
Yeah.
made through this
Right.
digging of
Right, because what I'm
yeah.
mining, right? Because what I'm
Yeah.
really looking for is I'm looking for things that are infinitely rewatchable for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for things that I'm like, okay, this is infinitely rewatchable. I will keep watching this forever. Like
Yeah.
that's ultimately what I want to find. I don't have the patience that I used to have when I was in high school and I just said elementary school and university.
Yeah.
When, excuse me, I started watching shit like crazy. Back then I would have watched the whole fucking movie.
So if you
I
find
don't have the fucking time or patience anymore. So no, I don't have time for 5 or 6 out of 10 films anymore. You know what I mean? Like I try not to. Like I
you're
try to
saying
just cut
out of
that
10,
shit
like
off.
a middle
Right.
of the road, 2.5 stars, 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
or
just
something like
crap,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that stuff now. Now I do break this rule. So sometimes, like for example, I recently watched the '90s Cape Fear remake, which
Oh,
is Scorsese,
The
and
Scorsese movie.
right, and I wanted to watch it because it was Scorsese, and I thought, okay, it's a Scorsese movie. I'm gonna finish the movie. Had I 30-minute ruled it, I probably would have stopped watching. It didn't really hook me, to be honest. I know you
No,
loved it.
I liked it.
Yeah, but I wanted to watch the whole thing because I wanted to see everything it had to offer. If I like for important films, if I think it's important that I see the whole thing so that I have the knowledge and I have the experience of seeing the whole thing, I will even if it isn't going to end up in my collection, it wouldn't have passed the 30-minute rule, I will watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do that.
So if it's like a schlocky B movie or something, and you're half an hour, 45 minutes in, you're like, there's a million of these. It's not really grabbing me. You're just gonna call it. But if it's like a Scorsese movie or like, I don't know, a legacy movie like a Citizen Kane or something, you're like, it may not be grabbing me, but I'm gonna finish it anyway, just for the historical significance of it or something like
Right,
that. If
yeah.
it's like a legendary old film that you haven't experienced.
Right. In that case, yeah, it's worth doing, like Citizen Kane or something. Yeah. Like just even if it didn't hook me, I want to see everything it has to offer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it can't pass the 30-minute rule, that's almost like I've already seen everything you have to offer, and I don't care about the rest. You know what I mean? It's like, that's how I feel about it.
Do you play, like, let me ask you this. Is it plot or is it like the way it's shot or anything?
It's not
just
anything
a whole package.
There's
like,
no specific science. It's just either you hooked me or you didn't.
Because if
It's
the
as
movie's
simple
like,
as that.
Well, the plot's kind of dumb, but the action's really cool or the shots
Right,
are
and
really
it might keep me
interesting.
engaged. It's
Yeah.
completely subjective. It's completely subjective. There's no exact formula, and that's why some people are going to be like, some people hate this idea. Some people are going to agree with me.
I find it fascinating. I mean, yeah.
I can tell you, it helps you watch a lot more shit.
Yeah, the other thing is, in our discussions, you're always like got tons of things. Like every phone call we've had,
My
it's
list
like,
is.
I've watched this.
Yeah, let
Like,
me bring up my list here.
It's allowed you to shotgun through.
Like, I mean, the camera probably won't pick this up, but there's like it just keeps going. Like there's. I watch a lot of shit, folks. A lot of shit. But sometimes I'll break the rule the other way, though. So it's not all. So like sometimes
okay.
I will
Yeah.
finish the whole thing, but sometimes things are such shit that I can't make it to 30 minutes.
Oh,
So
I see. Yeah,
sometimes I break the 30-minute rule and I'm just like, fuck this after 10, 15 minutes, where I'm like, I can't watch this.
that would have to be pretty bad. I
Oh,
imagine.
right. And there's a lot of that shit out there where I'm like, oh, okay, I know what this is. I'm tapping out immediately.
Yeah.
So sometimes if something's really bad, I just tap out immediately.
Hmm.
Yeah. The point is, I no longer feel insecure enough where I'm like, I have to finish the whole thing. No, I'm pretty confident enough that I can tell whether or not I'm going to like something.
Yeah.
And if it's genuinely worth my time.
Yeah.
And,
You wanna know? I have a
honestly,
good-
I think a lot of critics need to do this. Like, I wish more people would do this. I think people are way too lenient with their how much time they give to things.
yeah.
You know?
I have a perfect example, actually. I just, off the top of my head, I recently watched John Carpenter's Vampires. Have you ever seen that?
Of course, I have James Woods.
James Woods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of a movie that
It's
starts
rough.
off amazing.
I wouldn't even say it starts off.
You
that
really?
amazing,
Oh,
no.
are we doing? Is this movie number one? Here we're doing.
This could be number one.
Well, hold that. Let's
Okay.
talk about that movie because
Okay.
I actually have a lot to say about that movie.
Okay, sure.
So hold off on that movie. Let's keep going with breaking down
Okay.
the lists and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
So there's no order to my list. It's completely random. So it could be an old movie, could be a new movie, could be there's TV shows as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. The TV shows. So with TV shows, I don't really use the 30-minute rule. I pretty much give it one episode.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So I give it like
Yeah.
the pilot. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more, you
Yeah.
know.
If
but-
it doesn't hook you after maybe a pilot and an episode or two,
Yeah,
then
pilot
you-
usually it depends on the
Yeah.
I can tell from the pilot if there's potential to keep watching. But sometimes I will do pilot and then like an episode or two after.
That makes sense.
Because pilots it's
You never
hard.
know.
Well,
Yeah.
because with a pilot, like those actors are all just being thrust into this. They're figuring out their character. They're figuring out how to bounce off the other actors. They're figuring out what the dynamic is. Like
Also, sometimes
you
the
know.
pilot doesn't end up being as representative of like what the show turns into. Like
look at The
shoot,
Office.
Yeah,
Look
they
at the
shoot
US
the pilot
Office.
way
Right.
earlier, and then they decide to make changes, and then
Right.
like when you're actually watching the episodes, you're like, okay,
The tone is completely different all of a
Yeah.
sudden, right? And the
Yeah.
characters are tweaked, right? So
yeah. I do that. I
sometimes
think
pilots are just fucking awful.
I do the same thing when I watch shows. I usually give it a few episodes.
Right.
Sometimes when you know, but yeah.
So
Makes
yeah,
sense.
so TV shows are I'm a little bit more lenient
Yeah.
with how much time I give them. That camera's recording, right?
Yep.
I can't see the red light on that one. So.
Oh yeah.
This is our first time doing this, folks. So it's a brand new setup. So
Yeah.
I'm very paranoid that something isn't working. And if there's any technical issues, hopefully we'll have ironed them out by episode 100 or something. You just got to deal with 99 episodes of bad audio or bad camera angles. Yeah. Is there anything else we got to talk about
I
here?
think that's a good breakdown of the general
I mean,
concept.
people get the idea.
Yeah.
The idea is this is just going to be us off the cuff, going back and forth and talking about random movies and TV shows that we
Yeah.
recently watched.
I'll
It's
bring-
as simple as that. There's no agendas here. There's no particular topics. Like there's no particular like order to this. It's completely random.
Yeah. Generally, how we do is I just have whatever I've recently watched, and then you always have the fascinating
I always have
list.
the list.
Like you're pulling
right,
from
yeah.
the.
I always have like the
yeah.
master list. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this. This list is so long that some of these movies I watched like 6 to 8 months ago. So very often I don't remember a lot about them.
Because you're not taking notes on each movie.
No.
Yeah.
But that also tells you something. Like if
That's
I
true,
can't
too.
remember
Yeah.
much about it,
So if you watch
it
the
didn't
movie,
make much of an impression on me. You know what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah.
like, it's just kind of an okay. It's kind of a nothing movie.
so if you watch something 6 months ago and you're like,
And I
"Oh,
barely
what was that?"
remember
Like,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I've looked. You've experienced this. Sometimes, you will ask me for something, and I go on it, and I'm like, I don't even remember what this is. Like I
Yeah.
have the title, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
the fuck was this? And then I got to look it up, and I'm like, oh, that. Yeah, because maybe I only got 20 minutes in or something. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was just that bad.
That's the other thing is if you only watched half an hour of it and it was just a dog and you're like,
Right.
I'm out.
Yeah.
You may not remember
course.
much of it. Yeah.
So, to reiterate, this is all off the cuff. This is not pre-written. This is not pre-planned. You don't know what I'm going to give you.
No, I've not seen the list
Yeah,
either.
so you have no
Yeah.
idea what titles we're about to talk about. We're
No.
just going to do this at random. Probably aim for like, an hour to 2 hour discussion per episode. Some episodes might end up being only one or two things we're going to go through.
It became so much fun when we did it over the phone that we would often save all our discussions. We'd be like, don't talk about this movie. Like, you know what I mean?
We've
We'd
been
be
wanting
like,
to record this for a while.
Yeah.
Like we've had this idea to record this. Now, in all fairness, probably no one's going to give a shit about
Probably
what we
not.
have to say. We're
No.
probably only doing this for ourselves so that when we're old,
yeah.
so that when we're old men, we can look back and be like, oh, that's what I used to
That's
look
what I
like.
looked like. This is going into the void.
Right.
To
Yeah.
be fair,
This
yeah.
is going into YouTubers that are probably dead.
Top 10 YouTubers who are probably
top 10
dead.
YouTubers that never made it. that should be like top 10,000. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what's going to end up happening. But if for whatever reason you find what we're talking about interesting, I guess I should say this after we actually talk, but
Yeah.
if you find it interesting, by all means, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
If you want to see more of this stuff, I mean, I think we're gonna do this regardless,
I think we'd do it anyways.
right?
But
Well, we would do it anyways, but we are recording it for your entertainment, right? If
Yes.
you want to hear what two jackasses have to say about random movies and TV shows that they watched,
You found the right guy.
and off the cuff reviews that aren't well researched, aren't well thought out.
yeah.
Just what we're actually,
Yeah. We are not experts.
Well, one of us is.
Well,
Okay.
okay.
So, I actually went to school for film, and I actually have a film degree. So I have an actual piece of paper. I paid tens of thousands of dollars for. We are in Canada. So I went to a Canadian university, and got a film degree.
So because you have a piece of paper.
Because I have a degree.
Yeah.
A degree. I have
Okay.
a degree, and I have a coin. Do you have a degree or a coin, Kevin?
I do not have.
Okay.
I do not have a coin.
Yeah. Do you know what the coin is?
No.
So the coin is to signify that I was number one in my graduating year.
They
Yeah.
give you a coin.
They give you a coin,
Okay.
yeah. And so I got the Film and Media Award.
Does it have your face imprinted on the coin?
It does actually, yeah, forever. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was a good-looking guy then, and I'm a good-looking guy then. Interestingly, I have barely aged. Yeah, looks the exact same. So not only do I have a film degree, I was top of my graduating class. So what that means for those of you listening, take everything he says with a grain of salt, because ultimately he's not an expert like the other side of the panel here. Right. I mean, I whatever that means. It doesn't. I just find it funny because like I never use that, but I could. Like I could if I wanted to be. I could be a snob and be like, well, I have an actual film degree, so I actually know what I'm talking about. My objective, my opinion is actually objective, and your opinion is subjective shit. Yeah.
That's not really your personality.
That's not. That's the funny thing is I'm the furthest thing from that. Where I value everyone's opinion. Ultimately. Oh, and I should say actually, part of the because you talked to me about this, where you said like why are you trying so hard to watch so much shit?
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason I do that is I want to see everything that's out there. So the old man that just gave up, threw in the towel, was like, I'm not going to live long enough to watch all this shit. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm like, no, I get it. I'm going to be on my deathbed and fucking new shit will be coming out that I won't be able to see and whatever, right? Like life goes on. But in my lifetime, I want to experience pretty much everything that movies and television had to offer for decades behind me. You know, like I want to see everything that was out there. I want to experience it all. I want to see it all so that I can form the best opinions on the topics that I can. Yeah. And the other thing is, it legitimizes in my mind my collection, because to me, my collection, even though it's subjective, you know, I've got things in my collection that other people would be like, that movie's dog shit, but I don't give a shit. It's the shit that I find endlessly rewatchable. It's the shit that I would endlessly rewatch, that I'm always going to enjoy.
It's something that makes you feel something.
Right. And that's what's in my collection. And that's my ultimate criteria of if you ever hear me use the term collection worthy, I've got a whole video on it on my channel that goes into this. You should watch it. I think I've got I don't know, maybe 150, 200 views.
I think that's a little high.
Yeah. I think I'm being a little generous with that estimate. But to me, something that's collection worthy, meaning worth getting physical. We are both physical guys here, folks.
Like getting it on Blu-ray,
4K, even DivDa occasionally. We are physical collectors. I'm a big believer in physical forever. Digital ownership is bullshit. That's a whole other fucking topic. But collection worthy, so meaning worth actually buying physically and putting on the shelf, using up space. The only stuff that meets that criteria, my golden rule is it endlessly rewatchable for you? Would you endlessly rewatch it and enjoy it every time? And if the answer is yes, it's collection worthy. It belongs in your collection. If you can't say that, then it shouldn't be in your collection. And there's a lot of shit that's very close to that.
Well, these are your criteria.
Right.
You're
right.
Own personal, subjective.
Other people, more snobbish folk like yourself, feel the need to own everything that certain directors or actors or...
Yeah, well, if I like a director, I just want to try to watch and get everything that they
you
have.
Like having the little library of like, I have all the Scorsese films, even the ones that I'm never going to watch.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
There's... I mean, I've made I think my sarcasm has made my feelings clear on that. But I mean, honestly, I'm not judging you because you've known me long enough to remember when I had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When I was a real demon.
Yeah.
Because I used to do.
If anything, you've pared it down.
Oh, big time.
You used to try to, you had a goal of collecting like every horror movie ever released.
Right.
On physical media.
So I used to be what I call a completionist, in that if there was a franchise that was out there, I wanted to own every one of the franchise. And this was more for horror. So it was like, I wanted to have every Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, Hellraiser, Leprechaun, like go.
If it was a franchise,
Jeepers Creepers, like I just wanted to have them all. And my thought was, I wanted to own this library collection that at any time I could. It was almost like having an archive of all these films
within arm's reach.
Right,
You
I
wanted
could
to
just
be
go,
able to,
here's Leprechaun 4, Leprechaun in Space. Yes, I will now play this. What I realized is you just end up with a bunch of shit that collects dust that you never watch.
that you're never gonna watch.
No, I mean it's, and then people come over and go, "Oh, what is this?" But that gets old real quick. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not shitting. This is turning into another discussion. I should really cut this
Yeah,
off.
well.
We'll save this for another time. But, how did we get on this tangent? The fuck were we talking
Talking
about?
about physical media, I think.
No, but I know. How did we get into that? Oh, right.
Um,
So part of the reason I watch so much shit is it legitimizes when I look at my collection, I can go, okay, this is the real cream of the crop because I've seen everything else. So
Yeah.
So when I go like, okay, The Thing is a top 5 horror film, I feel
You're saying that with some level of authority because
Right.
you've watched
because I've actually watched
hundreds and
everything out
hundreds
there.
of horror
Right,
films.
right.
Yeah.
And I was telling you the anecdote about so I should say, for the record, I actually own a collectibles store that has a video section,
Yeah.
a movie section, right? Which is as close as you can get pretty much to owning a video store in these days.
Basically
because,
owning a video store.
right, because I want to be clear, there's no money in videos really. other than goons like us, nobody's really buying physical anymore.
Yeah.
The only way I've been able to make that section possible was by piggybacking it off the rest of the store, which is toys and video games, the shit that actually makes money.
Yeah.
But in my store, one of my own employees, I told you this anecdote, he recently told me he watched John Wick 4.
Yep.
And he's like, John Wick 4 is one of the greatest action films ever made. And
I've not seen John Wick 4.
I
so
have
don't
seen
know.
it, and
But,
I can
yeah.
tell you it is not one of the greatest action films ever made. He's a younger guy, he's 20, but this is the difference here. This is the life experience portion that's very important. Is he has not watched, in my opinion, he
Yeah.
has not watched nowhere near enough action movies to make that call. You know
I
what
see
I'm
what you're
saying?
saying. Yep.
So while subjectively, I believe he thinks in his mind,
And it is subjective. Like he,
Oh,
like,
right,
you know,
right.
if
And-
you enjoy,
right. But
Yeah.
you're right. Some people might say that John Wick 4 is one of the greatest action movies ever made. Sure. And they might actually believe it. But this is the difference. That's the subjective part. The objective reality is, have you watched most of the best action films of all time so that you can actually make that judgment?
Mhm.
And the guy's 20. And this is my point, is
Yep.
he hasn't watched enough shit that I think he can say things like that, because that's a very hyperbolic statement.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
Especially
him.
in
I
the
think John
act-
Wick 4 is probably the
A
best.
film you
I
haven't
think John
seen.
Wick 4 is
Right.
probably the greatest film ever made.
I think John Wick is an eternal series, and they will make those films forever, and I'm okay with that. I hope it gets a extended universe. I hope we get spin-off TV shows.
I think that John Wick 4 makes John Wick 2 look like John Wick 3.
You don't even know what you're saying.
I haven't seen it.
Right.
I've seen the
that
first
doesn't
John
even
Wick.
make any fucking sense. What you just said made no sense. I think John Wick 4 makes John Wick 2 look like John Wick 3. Whatever the fuck that means. You're just saying
Just telling it like it is.
right. Wait, have you watched any of those movies?
I've seen the first one.
Yeah, and-
like when it came out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to get into John Wick this second, but
It was good.
But the point I'm making is that that's why it's so important to me that I watch as much shit as I do, so that I can actually speak with some level of authority. Because you know me, I don't wave my big degree dick around and act like I'm fucking,
No,
God's
yeah.
gift to crit. Because at the end of the day, if you like something and I don't, it doesn't matter that I don't think it's good. If you enjoy it, then I have no right to shit on what you like.
Yeah, at
Like,
the end of the day, you're
ultimately-
not like a snob in the sense that if someone likes something, it's like, that's fine.
I'm very
Yeah.
open to it, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of shit in my collection that people will object. Like they, in their minds, they're like, "That's objectively a bad movie."
Yeah. You have a fondness for a lot of like 80s like horror stuff, which is not everyone's
Right.
cup of tea.
Oh, that's a perfect
So,
example.
yeah.
A lot of people think horror is shit. A big
Yeah.
problem is I think too many horror people think it's all good, but it's not. Yeah, it works the
Yeah.
other way too. A lot of
Yeah.
the horror people think it's all great, and it's like, no. only a very small portion of it's actually like real good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not shitting on what somebody likes or doesn't like, but it gets into the objective versus subjective. It's hard for me to give you your opinion when I know you haven't lived long enough to watch most of the shit that's out there. Because one of the first things I asked him is I said, okay, well, have you watched any Jackie Chan action movies from the 80s? Well, no. Have you watched The Raid 1 or 2? Well, no. Okay. Have you watched the Lethal Weapon movies? Well, no. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you haven't watched most of what other people would consider the greatest action movies of all time. So don't make fucking throwaway statements like it's one of the greatest action films ever made, you know?
Yeah.
And you know me, I fucking hate, I hate when people say top blank, you know, top 5, top 10. I have tried to avoid that shit like the plague, you know?
Yeah.
I don't like making those lists. You know, like,
Yeah, I can
like
see
rank the top 10 of all time. It's like, they're all, you know, I like
Subjective,
the one, it's like I like the ones I like the, you know, you like the ones you like.
Yeah.
Now that being said, do I read a lot of those articles? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
In case people are wondering, like, where do I get the movies for this list that I make, like my active stuff I'm going to be watching? I watch a shitload of YouTube videos,
Movie trailers.
I watch tons of movie trailers. I read tons and tons of lists of like, you know, films from each decade and films from each genre. I'm
Hidden
always
gems from like the 90s. Or something
I'm the
that.
ghoul that reads and watches all that shit, and then I go through it and then I try to pick the little things out of it that I think will actually be worth it, and then form this, and then from this, probably 1% of it makes it in my collection.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it's probably realistically, it's probably about like 1 to 5% actually makes it all the way to the collection.
What do you think, off the top of your head, what was the last thing
That I added?
that made it into the collection?
Probably not kung fu, probably an action movie, because I've been really watching a lot of that 80s Hong Kong action movie stuff.
Like the
It was the Cynthia Rothrock movie that I want to show you. You haven't seen yet, the Yes Madam with
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh.
You were telling me about that.
Yes, yeah.
I haven't seen any Michelle Yeoh, like her.
Which is funny because I didn't even watch it for Michelle Yeoh. I watched it for Cynthia Rothrock because I like Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah.
And turns out that Yes Madam was in a whole series called In the Line of Duty. And I actually just picked up that box set from 88 Films because I want to see the other ones. So we'll see if they're any good.
So is that Hong Kong martial arts action?
Yeah, it's
from
like
the 80s?
it's all that 80s Hong Kong action movie stuff. Yeah. Which is,
It's fascinating that she won the like Academy Award, and then
you go back and
she's like a badass like action star.
Well, it's the equivalent of like Jackie Chan actually doing like real films here, but he didn't really do that.
Yeah.
You know, that would be what it would be like if Jackie Chan had tried taking some dramatic Oscar roles here.
Yeah.
I think in China he actually did do some more serious stuff, but here he didn't. Michelle Yeoh, on the other hand, did.
Yeah.
She was also in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, that's right.
Right. But I mean, that's more martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she got the Oscar for Everything Everywhere at Once.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that yet?
I have, yeah.
Well, we're not talking about that on today's episode. I've recently watched. Okay. Let's get into the list. We've been talking for 10 hours about how this...
Wait.
Okay.
First, we had to talk about...
Fuck's sakes.
we had to talk about John Carpenter's Vampires.
Why do you get to go first?
Well, I wanted to bring it up as a... I wanted to talk about it as an example on my end of like your 30-minute rule.
Oh, you couldn't get past 30 minutes in that movie? Fuck you.
I made it past 30 minutes, but I was not much longer.
Okay.
I don't know how long the runtime is. I want to say I maybe made it like 45.
So for those who have not seen it, John Carpenter's Vampires is a movie from, I'll bring it up here. What's the basic plot
1997 or 8 or something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely 90s.
Late 90s? We can bring it up here. Anyway, John Carpenter's Vampires.
1998.
Yeah, so late 90s Carpenter. Stars James Woods.
And I think Billy Baldwin. It's one of the Baldwins.
Oh, it's one of the Baldwins.
It's one of the even lesser known. Daniel Baldwin.
Baldwin.
It's one of the even lesser known Baldwins.
And
you go down, obviously at the top, Alec. Although after that whole Rust thing, maybe he's
No.
down a bit.
But in general, it's Alec.
Right now,
I don't know the middle one.
well, there's Billy Baldwin.
Okay.
I would say Alec, Billy, Daniel. There's one other Baldwin that is a Baldwin, but his last name is Baldwin, but he's actually not one of the Baldwins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's Stephen Baldwin. I think it's Stephen Baldwin isn't actually one of the brothers. Let me look this up while
Okay.
you're debating about the Baldwins.
Yeah. I guess.
The podcast. This is live, Kevin. We don't have time for you to clean your eye. Like this is very unprofessional what you're doing right now. This could affect your this could affect a future appearance of you on the show. I just want to be clear about that. What am I typing in? Baldwin brothers. What do you think about that whole Rust thing? Baldwin family. Oh, Stephen Baldwin is. Okay. Wait, is Billy Baldwin not a Baldwin? Okay, hold on a sec. Baldwin family. The Baldwin.
Why are we do?
This is fucking important.
All right.
All right. This
All
is
right.
the kind of shit people are going to want to know. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. So Alec, Daniel. Oh, Billy. I was right. Yeah. The 4 Baldwin brothers. Alec, Daniel, Billy, Stephen. Stephen Baldwin's the other one. They all look the fucking same too, which is so
They
weird.
do, yeah.
They all look the exact same. They're fucking genetic freaks. Look at these people. Animals. God.
Okay, so the whole point.
So the
Yeah.
point of this is you're not getting Alec, you're getting Daniel
Yeah.
Baldwin, which Daniel might.
I
even
don't
be
know him from anything else.
Daniel Baldwin, known from I guess this movie
Yeah. So vampires. James Woods,
and
it's
and-
actually got Cheryl Lee, who's from Twin Peaks.
cool.
She's actually Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks, which is I was like excited to see her act in a movie.
Cool.
And yeah, I only made it like 45 minutes into this piece of shit.
Ooh, easy.
I mean, you said
We'll go over the
Okay.
basic plot
The plot is that James Woods is a vampire hunter working
with a group. He has a group,
He's a team, a
and
squad
including
of vampire
Daniel,
hunters.
including Daniel Baldwin.
Yeah, so Daniel Baldwin is his like right hand man.
Right, his right hand man, because he's in the
Yeah.
whole movie. And also, it's got the only other notable person in his group that I can think of is it's got the fat guy from Mark Boone Jr., who's the fat guy from Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's the only thing I know him from. Interestingly, though, as I brought up the IMDb, I see Thomas Ian Griffith is in this. That's fucking Terry Silver from Cobra Kai.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
like the
okay.
main villain from. At least I think that's who that is. It's the main villain from Karate Kid 3. I'm certain that's who I'm looking at. Hold on a sec. I just want to make sure I'm not making this up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai.
He's Terry Silver.
Okay.
I didn't remember he was even in this movie. Is he the fucking vampire? No.
No, that's
That's some other random guy.
some
right?
other guy, I think.
Maybe he was just like one of the, because there was a couple guys in his crew.
There was a few.
He might have been
guys,
just
yeah.
one of the goon guys that gets killed.
Although he could have been. I don't know. The master vampire that's like
I don't
chasing
remember.
them. Anyway, so the plot of the movie is that James Woods and his crew are vampire hunters. They're like sanctioned by the Vatican
Right. Yep.
to travel around America and kill vampires.
Which is a neat concept.
Which is a cool concept.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
And
with
it
that.
takes place in modern times.
It's no different than
it's
like a Blade type thing.
Yeah, it
right?
takes
There's,
place
like-
in 98. It's not
Yeah.
like in the past or in the shit like that.
Yes.
It's like, no, vampires are around now. and the
Vampires are real.
And the Vatican has a kill squad they send around to take out vampire like nests, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's the opening of the movie,
Yeah.
which is fucking awesome.
So the movie opens with a raid on a house.
You didn't like that sequence. That fucking
I-
sequence is amazing.
Amazing.
What a cool fucking idea. The idea that they have a winch system where all they have to do is spike the vampire and the winch drags the vampire out into the sunlight and then they just
Yeah.
burn away. That's such a cool idea.
cool idea. Execution was lacking. It was like,
Now, in all fairness, I haven't watched this movie in a while.
yeah.
So I will admit that. I will admit that. So maybe it's cheesier than I remember, but I remember thinking that
It's very
fucking
cheesy.
opening was
Yeah.
awesome. Now,
When was the last time you watched it? Like, when do you think you watched it last?
I mean, I rewatched it to see if it was collection worthy, and it wasn't collection worthy. So
Oh, there
probably
you
like
go.
10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
No, maybe even like 8 years ago. But I remember thinking this is my opinion on it. The first half is awesome, and then it turns to absolute dog shit.
Okay, well if it turns to dog shit halfway through, I didn't even make it to the halfway. Like,
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
anyway, my opinion of it is, I mean, I love John Carpenter. I'm a big fan. I love The Thing. I love his.
Sorry,
early
remind me, what did he direct? John Carpenter. Stupid humor.
Yeah. But no, I love John Carpenter. So I wanted to give this a shot. I know obviously that his later movies are not as well received as his like 80s and late 70s stuff. But I thought, Sheryl Lee, James Woods, I'll give it a shot.
Vampires.
Vampires.
There's not a lot of good vampire movies out there, let's be honest.
Well, it's also interesting because the late 90s, it's like, I think Blade, was it like 99?
Oh, it might even be 98. Well, let me look
There
that
was
up.
like a resurgence.
There's a reason
of
we
like,
have a computer
yeah.
here. Let me look this up. See Blade.
Because you have a resurgence of these like, well, you've also got Buffy.
98.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking year. It's the same year.
as Buffy.
Well, isn't it funny how like that's a big thing I find in Hollywood where you get these random years where the exact same movie theme or type got made.
Yeah.
You know what I
Just
mean?
all of a sudden, everyone decided to make
it's
vampire
like,
movies.
Right. It's like everybody's, all the studios suddenly green light. It's like one studio, Fox will green light, I don't know, a Killer Dinosaur movie. And then Sony's like, well, do we have a script?
We also have to make
do we have a
Killer
script
Dinosaur
about it?
movie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
so weird how that shit happens.
I just found it.
And actually, sorry to interrupt, but Blade is also, it's a vampire hunting movie.
Yes.
That's so
Well, it's also
fucking random.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer
I think
also
97.
about-
I
is
think
it?
it's 97. I don't think it's 98.
What's also about hunting vampires.
97.
So yeah.
Somehow I knew that. I like that show.
So the problem with vampires, John Carpenter's vampires, is it's a meandering sort of like cheesy,
It's very
like
cheesy.
schlocky horror action movie with
Yeah.
like a 90s like hard rock soundtrack.
Correct.
I don't know if John Carpenter did the soundtrack for that. He usually does his own soundtracks.
He
but
probably had nothing to do with it.
this one was just kind of meh. The acting's just terrible. James Woods
Woods is good.
He just looks weird, man. He's like
Nah,
skinny.
I like
and he's
his.
wearing like the
He's
little.
got the badass fucking round black sunglasses. He's got a cool look. Fuck you. James Woods is cool as a vampire hunter.
The vampire hunters.
His like badass. You don't like his badass delivery where he's like, forget everything you fucking know about vampires. You put a cross in front of a vampire's face, he'll shove it right up your ass. He's cool.
I mean,
he's
I
cool.
don't know.
He's cool in that movie. I like him.
But so they take out the one vampire nest, and then they're all just like drinking and party. They're basically like bikers, like a biker gang. Of
Right.
Like,
yeah. And this is the scene you're about to talk about is the scene that sorry.
Yeah.
I watched this movie when I was a kid.
So you might have some like.
I kind of have a little
tender
nostalgia,
nostalgia
for it. A little
for it.
bit, yeah,
Yeah.
because I watched this movie as a kid. Literally I went over to this guy's house, and his grandmother rented it for us because it was 18A.
Oh, okay.
And it was like we were a little too young. When it was 98, so we probably rented this probably 2000. So I was probably like 10. Maybe it was
Yeah.
2001. I was like 10 or 11, right?
Yeah.
Definitely too young
That
to be
makes-
watching this shit. It was like I watched this in like grade 5, and grandmother rented it for us, VHS tape. We watched it, me and this guy, and the scene you're about to talk about was the scene that both of our jaws were on the floor because we were like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
'Cause it goes from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. So they're all partying, thinking they took out the vampire nest, and then the like master vampire,
Right.
the like vampire lord, shows up and just massacres all of them.
Oh,
like,
I mean,
tears
there's
them
that
apart.
cool shot where he literally cuts the guy in half with his hand.
Oh yeah,
That was a cool
Yeah.
shot.
And like, okay, I don't know. It's
Dude, there's a bunch of titties in that scene too.
yeah, but I don't know. I
That was it's funny because that was literally one of the things that when
you're, like, in
young
grade
boy
5,
me
yeah.
was like, oh my god, titties! Like that was one of those movies
Yeah.
where that was a big thing.
I remember like, yeah, you have those movies where you like our friends would like sneak Aliens and like Total Recall and
Sure.
like R-rated movies.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, this is so cool, but it's not cool. Like I just found it to be really meandering. Like you don't really get much a sense of anything. It's like,
It's
okay,
not
they hunt
amazing.
vampires, so
Yeah, it's
what?
not
Like
amazing.
I'd rather watch Blade. And
That's saying
then the
something.
plot just sort of continues on. They're running away from this lead vampire. Sheryl Lee plays like a prostitute that gets bit.
But
And then
right.
she has like a psychic link to the
Right.
master vampire. We don't know anything about this master vampire. He just shows up, slaughters them, and is like, I'm the bad guy.
Oh,
It's
he's
like-
given no depth.
He's given
zero
zero depth.
depth.
He's just a big bad guy for them to defeat. They have Cheryl Lee acting as the prostitute that gets bitten, and then she has a psychic link with him.
And Danny
And so-
Baldwin has like forms of feelings for her for some
I
reason.
guess they're
Well,
using
he falls
her.
for her.
They're using her as bait to try to lure the vampire
Right.
into a trap where they can defeat
Yep.
him. It's all very generic. Cheryl Lee's given nothing to do. Like she's just a generic like prostitute woman
Yep.
like character.
Yep.
She has like
There's
no
everyone
good
everyone in
lines,
the
no depth. of
everyone in the
anything.
film is like a two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
They're
James Woods is very two-dimensional. He's just like trying to ape like a Schwarzenegger type thing where he's in like the jeans and the black shirt with like the jacket and like the cool shades. Like they're trying to
I think he has a badass look. I think his look is cool,
but he's also a scrawny, spindly man. Like he's not like jacked. So it's hard to buy him as someone who's like
I don't know. I'd
trained
buy
to
him as a badass vampire hunter. I don't know. I disagree with you on that one.
anyway.
What the fuck do you know about what a vampire hunter
Well,
should or should not look like?
I
Do
don't
you think you have to be jacked to fight vampires?
maybe not.
Yeah, right.
don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I got to the point where they're hiding out in like a hotel room, and then Danny Baldwin ties her to a bed.
Naked.
I think yeah, I can't remember. I think
I'm
he
pretty
ties
sure
her
she's naked. Yeah.
So it's just like, okay.
Like her ass or some shit.
And then she ends up like biting him, I think, and then he hides it. Like
yeah,
James Woods
I forgot
comes
about
back
that.
and he's
yeah.
like, "Oh, like can't let
Yeah, I
anyone know
forgot
that I'm
about that.
bit." So it's just like it sets up the generic like vampire zombie trope that's just like, "Oh, one of the characters is hiding that they've been bitten." I was like, just "Fuck this!" Like I was like, nothing about it is intriguing. You have a few
the
shots.
ending is a clusterfuck.
You have James Wood driving like a truck because he has to he dips on the whole thing. He's like, I have to go back to the church and talk to the Vatican.
Well, yeah,
So he
don't
leaves
forget. Yeah, so Danny Baldwin and Cheryl Lee go on their own little escapade, and they're like this little vampire couple. And then James Woods recruits the young priest.
I just got to
That's
that.
like, yeah.
So I'm assuming
It's not a great film.
he becomes a character, I guess. The young
Hardly.
Okay.
Hardly.
So
It's
he
not an
just
amazing
leaves.
film. The
Yeah.
end, the third act is terrible. They do some stupid shit with like the vampires POV, and there's some like weird floating camera crap, and it's just
Yeah, it's a very
it's not
corny late 90s schlock like B movie basically. And it's disappointing when you consider that it's from Carpenter and that especially since Blade came out the same year.
Right.
And while Blade is like corny, it's actually fun and enjoyable to watch. So I just feel like
I don't know if I had to choose
don't know.
between the two. Sometimes I might take vampires over Blade. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah, I don't know.
motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.
Yeah, I know, but that's
Yeah.
funny for.
The intro to Blade is great.
Let's not get into
I would
Blade.
take the intro of Blade,
The Blood Rave.
the Blood Rave over the anything in vampire. Yeah.
Or whatever the fuck it is. I can do techno there, folks.
I love The Thing. I love Big Trouble in Little China. I love In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep.
I love a lot of Carpenter stuff. This was
Yeah, this
I
is
tapped out. I
right.
tapped
This
out.
is
Yeah.
end of career Carpenter.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: are you going to buy a copy so that you have it, so that you have all the Carpenter films?
Oh, absolutely.
Because Scream Factory actually has a Bluetooth Blu-ray of this.
Oh, do they?
Oh, of course
Okay.
they do. Yeah, they even did one, I think, for Ghosts of Mars.
Oh.
Actually, no, they may not have done that, but
I've not seen
But
Ghost
it's
of
a
Mars.
matter of time. They will
Yeah,
do it at some
yeah.
point. Yeah.
So anyway, that's just an example where I had to tap out. I don't often tap out of movies, but like I was like,
It's not a bad way to start off our episode here.
Yeah.
We got one from Kevin right off the bat. Okay,
Yeah.
I got
So what do you got for me?
I got a
What do you
pair. I got a pair of movies here. So I think I told you a little bit about this, that I started getting into Walter Matthau or Matthau.
Matthau, I think.
I think Walter Matthau. You know who I'm talking about, right? He played Mr. Wilson in the Dennis the Menace live action. I'll bring up a picture of him.
Bring him
Somewhere
up.
in the photo. He's from The Odd Couple, the original one. Hold on a sec. Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's also
I know Jack Lemmon.
And Walter Matthau is
Yeah.
also from the original. I guess there he is right there. Walter Matthau, who's like
Scroll down.
an acclaimed actor. Same thing with Jack Lemmon, obviously. I've been getting into their movies together because they were like this duo that for a while had
Oh yeah.
a ton of
Yeah.
films together because their on-screen chemistry was so good. This guy, he was Mr.
Oh,
Wilson
yeah.
the fuck. We're 90s kids, folks. So in
Yeah.
case you're wondering why the fuck they're referencing the live-action Dennis the Menace movie, because that was what was on when we were kids.
Yeah.
But
He was in a bunch of like the Billy Wilder comedies or things, or the Jack Lemmon was, I think. Like a lot of those 50s and 60s like movies where they're paired up together.
well, they
kind of
they
thing.
did a shitload of movies together. I think they did
Okay.
like 13 movies together or something.
Okay.
But
so why did you get into this?
because I had in my Laserdisc collection, I had a copy of Grumpy Old Men and Grumpier Old Men.
Oh, okay. I remember watching that. I think when I was like,
I remember always seeing the covers in the
Yeah.
in the video store, and as a kid, I had zero interest, but I used to laugh at it.
yeah,
And that was an old the joke that we used to play. Me and my brothers, we used to say that my grandpa was one of the grumpy old men. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
he was.
Yeah.
He literally was a grumpy old man. So it was like that movie was just about him. But we never actually ended up watching it. And I didn't know what it was going to be because I had the 2 laser discs, and I was like, you know what? I'll watch the first one and I'll give it a shot and I'll see what it is. I was expecting a cheesy 90s comedy. It is much higher elevated than that, surprisingly.
what year is it?
Grumpy Old Men. Let me bring that one up. This is the downtime, folks. This is when you gotta wait for me to bring things up. Grumpy Old Men, 1993
93.
is Grumpy Old Men. So very basic plot. The plot is so. Case I was bringing up the Walter Matthau and the Jack Lemmon thing. So
Yeah.
so back in like the 60s, maybe even earlier, 50s, 60s, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, great on-screen chemistry. They made a bunch of movies together. Then in the 90s, suddenly, I think this was the beginning of this. This started off another series of movies with these two guys again.
Oh, cool.
Because this movie ended up being like a big smash hit, and it just, I guess the studios were like, holy shit, hey, they still got it. And then
They still got it,
They
so-
greenlit a bunch of them. So there was Grumpy
Yeah.
Old Men, Grumpier Old Men, which is the sequel. There was, I think it's called Out to Sea,
Okay.
which I also watched that one. I think that might have been the third one that came after this. And then there was, they did The Odd Couple 2, which a lot of people didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
There's a Legacy Odd Couple sequel, and it's actually them.
So you went on a tear and watched all of these.
I didn't watch The Odd Couple 2, but I watched
Okay.
Grumpy Old Men 2, and then I watched, I think it's called Out to Sea, which it's on the list, so I'll get to it at some point. But Grumpy Old Men. Let's talk about Grumpy Old Men.
Okay.
You're expecting a cheesy 90s like goofball comedy, shit like Baby's Day Out or
Yeah.
fucking Baby Geniuses, like that kind of bullshit.
Beethoven. Kind of
Beethoven, a perfect example.
Yeah.
There's these movies that were just family crap that went onto the VHS shelves, the video store shelves, which were at this time were all VHS tapes. And you saw the covers and you went, looks like a wild, wacky good time.
Yeah.
And most of those movies, they were what they were. This has some elements of that. There's some elements of goofy slapstick 90s comedy bullshit. There's a lot of heart in this movie. So the basic plot is Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon are neighbors, and they've been childhood frenemies, and they have this long-running rivalry. And the running joke is they actually can't remember why they're mad at each other. So
Ooh,
they've been
okay.
mad at each other for so long. They don't like each other for so long. They don't even remember why they originally started being mad at each other.
That's like a iconic setup. That's a great.
It's a great, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not till the end of the movie they kind of realize they have this moment of like, what started all this? And they themselves have conflicting versions of what it even was.
Yeah.
And then so they have this ongoing rivalry, and they fuck with each other all the time. So they play little innocent pranks on one another.
Okay.
And and they both live alone. They both have their own houses on the same block. I think they're like next door neighbors or a couple doors down, but I think they're next door neighbors is what it was. And they play little pranks on each other. They both live alone at this point. They're both like grumpy old men that live
They don't
alone.
have wives.
No, neither one of them have wives. And
Jack Lemmon killed Walter Matthau's wife. That's
no, hang on. Save the jokes. Let me get
All
to
right.
what makes this actually good. And then what ends up happening is a beautiful woman moves into the neighborhood, and suddenly the two of them both become infatuated with this woman, and they're
Oh,
both
okay.
vying for her affection. And so what was already a bit of rivalry ramps up. So the little pranks they played on each other suddenly become big pranks.
yeah.
And that's where most of the goofball 90s shit comes in.
Are we talking like Home Alone level shenanigans?
Only a couple little
Okay.
things. Only a couple little things. Like one of the more minor things that happens is I think it's Walter Matthau. He realizes that his remote control will also work on Jack Lemmon's television. So he goes to the window and starts fucking with the television while Jack
yeah.
Lemmon's just trying to sit and enjoy and watch television.
Yeah.
It's more like innocent little pranks like that. And where I think the movie elevates itself is in its appreciation for like, it takes time. It's not just all screwball comedy, and it gives actual screen time to like talking about like what it's like growing old and like having these people in your lives that it's like time heals all wounds kind of
Yeah.
thing.
It's realizing what you have because like,
Right. And by the end of the film, I don't want to give everything away, but
Yeah.
basically by the end of the film, these two guys who have been rivals for years basically end up realizing that they're actually good friends.
It sounds like they reconcile at the end.
Well,
and
they
then-
pretty much realize that all they have left is each other.
Yeah.
So
So it's like
what's the point of continuing on this petty rivalry?
through the rivalry and pranks, they come to realize that they've been leaning on each other and that they actually have a potential
Right.
like friendship there and kind of thing.
And I'll say this, the acting in this film is phenomenal. Like Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are like, they're incredible in this movie. Like legitimately make you feel for each of these characters. They're very they're perfect. I mean, they were known. They did The Odd Couple back in the 60s. So
Yeah.
they already have great on-screen chemistry. They're very funny together in every scene. They play off each other perfectly. I'm sure half the shit they said was ad-libbed. But they are very believable as like, they're very believable and endearing as these actual grumpy old men. They just seem like, it just seems legitimate. It's probably to an extent kind of what they were at this point in their lives. I don't know how old they were when they filmed this, but they were probably in their 70s.
They're probably legitimately just grumpy old men. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the heart that's in this movie is very good. Very good.
So did you find it genuinely touching?
It genuinely caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely caught me off guard. Because a big theme in the movie is just getting old.
Mhm.
I think that's a big part of it. And realizing what's actually important. And I think what's actually important is like friends and surrounding yourself with loved ones.
Yeah.
And they both have supporting family members in the movie who play off them a little bit and try to help them get some perspective.
Yeah. Well, I
on
want to
things.
ask you, who's the lady that moves in?
I'll be honest. This is going to be the beginning of this. I am terrible with knowing actresses' names. I'm sorry, but
Anne Margaret? Oh, Burgess Meredith is in this?
Okay, so that was the next thing I was going to talk about. Yeah, who is it Anne Margaret is the...
It must
Yeah,
be.
so Anne Margaret. Yeah, Anne Margaret's the woman. Now, so that's the only part of the plot that's a little unrealistic is like they're supposed to be like in their 70s and she's like in her 50s. So it's a little unbelievable that
Yeah.
this woman that's like 2 decades younger than them would find them both attractive.
What's the end result of it? Like, they're vying for her affection. Does she?
I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, okay.
I actually don't
Yeah.
want to spoil it.
You recommend it
because I
then?
actually recommend watching
Yeah,
it because it might surprise you how much heart there actually is in this movie, and it's actually genuinely funny. That's the other thing is like
Yeah.
they're on, both of them are at the top of their game. So Burgess Meredith, who most people would know as Mickey from the Rocky series,
Yeah.
he's Jack Lemmon's father.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool. That's
who's
interesting
like
casting.
supposed to be like in his late 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
He and interestingly, it's one of his last acting roles.
Because he passed away
So,
after Rocky. What?
well, he died in Rocky
right?
3, but in Rocky 5, he's in a scene that they filmed.
Okay, I thought they did like a
memorial
memorial scene for him after him, the actual actor passing away. I thought that's what they did.
No, they filmed an actual scene in Rocky 5 that's supposed to be a flashback, but you can clearly tell Burgess Meredith was even older in that scene. It's supposed
okay.
to be, anyways.
Okay.
So the sequel, Grumpier Old Men, he's in it.
You
And
watched that too.
I did. Eerily, he dies in that movie. And in real life, he died like a few years after they shot that movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. It kind of eerie. So it's kind of interesting that he shot his own death, like filmed his own death
Yeah.
on screen, and then like, literally a few years later in real life, like died. I mean, kudos to him. I think he was like 88 or something, like when he filmed Grumpy Old Men, or Grumpier Old Men, I should say. Burgess Meredith, though, is phenomenal as Jack Lemmon's father. He's really funny because he's basically like, he's so old that he's at the point where he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to have fun. Like, fuck it. I'm just going to say and do whatever the fuck I want. And he's very funny.
He's like a well of comedy for like. the
He's
movie,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Would you recommend the sequel?
Okay. So the first one I highly recommend. It's not going in my collection, in case you're wondering. It's not going in my collection.
That was going to be one of my questions.
I highly recommend it. So it's worth a watch for sure. I would say it's like a solid 7 out of 10. I would say some of the acting in it, though, is like probably 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
There is a specific scene, and you'll know it when you get to it. It's near the end of the movie where Walter Matthau just gives this incredible, like, heart-wrenching performance. And
Nice.
I don't want to spoil it, but he's got like a fantastic scene in this movie that
I'll have
like
to check that
legitimately like tugged at my like heartstrings, and I was like welling up, and I'm like, for fucking grumpy old men, I'm like crying to this, but
Yeah.
it's so like touching. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. It's short. It's sweet. I'm gushing about this. I'm talking about Grumpy Old Men for so long now, but it's genuinely worth a watch. It was a real surprise to me how much I liked it. And it made me like these guys, and it made me watch another 2 movies with them because their on-screen chemistry is just so fun.
I know Jack Lemmon is an Academy Award winner. I imagine.
I think Walter Matthau is as well,
as
or at the very least, he's Academy Award or like Academy nominated. Yeah.
They're both legendary actors.
Both legendary actors. The other thing that I find fun about this, so I got to look this up because I genuinely don't know. So I'm going to look this up right now because I want to know how old they were when they filmed this because I have something I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
All right. Well, that took me way longer to Google than I was expecting. But so at the time of filming this movie, Jack Lemmon was 68 years old and Walter Matthau was 73.
And they're playing even older characters?
No, they're playing basically that age. Like they're playing
Okay.
the age they were. Burgess Meredith was fucking 85. And he's
Shit.
playing a 94-year-old in the movie, which makes sense, right? Because he's
Yeah.
got to be that much older than Jack Lemmon's character.
To be the father.
I mean,
Yeah.
they literally almost were the right ages for those roles. That's what's crazy. And that's why they work so well. They had great chemistry in the movie too. But the point I wanted to make was I don't think this movie will ever get made again. And hear me out. This is
Okay.
what I mean by this. Do you think that they're ever going to greenlight a film starring senior citizens?
Oh, absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think this will happen ever again. I don't think you're
so.
ever going to get a movie starring 70-year-old men or 70-year-old people. I don't mean bit characters. I mean the entire film is theirs.
I
That's the point I'm making. Is like I think you're gonna get performances from TV show. Like look at fucking what's his face from Brian Cox from Succession. Who's
Succession.
like 75, 76.
Yeah.
Right. But the show I'm talking a movie where the main people are elderly people, like elderly actors. I don't see it happening.
I think so. I mean, we just had The Irishman, which was Al Pacino, Robert De Niro,
Okay.
Joe Pesci.
Fair enough.
They're all the main
I
characters.
might give you that one.
They're all in their mid-70s.
I just think it's interesting that it's just such a from a bygone thing, the idea of like
But especially in like a comedy, too.
that's
Yeah.
fascinating though, right?
It's one thing to have elderly like legacy actors in like a drama role,
Right.
but to have them in a heartwarming comedy film is special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really neat that
Yeah.
that you just had this time when they were willing to let old men be like movie stars again. Like that to me is fascinating. That
Yeah.
like they were what's the word I'm looking for? Vehicle. It's like it was a vehicle for those guys. Like that's fascinating that
Yeah.
that they were like that Hollywood was willing to like, okay, we don't need young pretty people. We're just gonna make these fun, goofy movies with these old timers basically.
Yeah. Basically, these actors from the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Burgess Meredith is fucking 85 in the movie. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy that they were willing to
That
greenlight
is, yeah.
that.
It's very-
And well, not only that, they made fucking 3 movies after this movie.
Yeah. It
So you're
started a
talking, like,
renaissance of
of
yeah.
old man movies. It's
Yeah.
great. I just think that's so fun.
So grumpier, is that what it is?
Yeah, so I'll
Grumpier
briefly
old man?
touch on Grumpy
Okay.
Your Old Men. Is it as good as the first one? No. Does it still have some of the heart? Absolutely. There's a particularly touching scene where Jack Lemmon discovers Burgess Meredith, his father, has passed away.
Mhm.
That's very good. There's some good moments in it, but ultimately, I think I get why they made it because without spoiling too much, in the ending of the first movie, there's kind
It
of
sets it up for a sequel.
well, I think I mean money's probably why they made it.
I
but
mean,
the
yeah,
way
yeah.
I guess I guess I'll just spoil it. Who fucking cares? It's
It's
grumpy.
a-
It's grumpy
yeah.
old men. I don't know that anyone gives a shit. But the end of the movie, Anne Margaret's character ends up picking Jack Lemmon instead of Walter Matthau. So the
Oh,
end of the
okay.
movie is like you kind of feel bad for Walter Matthau. So we get a sequel. Now there's a love interest for Walter Matthau.
Oh,
And
I
it's
see.
it's
Yeah.
Sophia Loren, who I think was
Oh,
like
wow.
a famous model from
Yep.
like the 60s and 70s or something.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's
And
a cool casting.
She's a smoke show in that. She still had it even in her
Oh,
later
yeah.
age. So she's Walter Matthau's love interest, and that's literally
then
the
it's-
whole movie.
yeah,
The whole movie is him and Jack Lemmon trying to help his friend get the girl.
Yeah.
And it's just there's just not much substance to work with. Like they're great in the movie. There's some fun little things. Burgess Meredith has some funny scenes in it, but ultimately there's not a ton of substance. There's not a ton of meat to work with.
It's a little
there.
thin because then it's just setting him up and trying to
Yeah, it almost feels like it could have been in the first movie maybe if they just added like another 20 minutes of subplot to give Walter Matthau another love interest.
It's a lot to stretch that plot to a whole feature-length film.
Right,
of,
and
of,
so-
now we've got to get my friend the girl.
Right. And
Kinda
let me just
thing.
look up what year Grumpy Your Old Men was because I genuinely don't remember. Yeah, by the way, Grumpy Old Men, 7 out of 10 on IMDb.
I'm not familiar with IMDb's.
IMDb is pretty strict.
Is it?
IMDb is usually pretty strict.
So is a 7 out of 10 good?
Oh yeah, yeah. To see for a goofball '90s comedy, it's like people
Yeah.
know obviously there's something there. Oh, I was right. Their later movie was called Out to Sea. That's what I thought it was. There you go. Grumpy Your Old Men, 95. 2 years later. 2 years later. Yeah.
And so
I might as well just talk about Out to Sea.
You might as well, yeah.
Because I mean, I don't. Okay, so Out to Sea, 1997. Do you recognize that cover? I remember always seeing that image, that right there.
I'm sure I've seen.
I've
that
seen
before,
that
yeah.
VHS cover many, many times. So
Well, I was gonna say the only thing I'm familiar with about the whole grumpier old men thing was I remember it being a very popular VHS. Like everyone had it.
everybody's
All my parents, when I was, younger, so I was just a kid in the 90s, but I remember Like all my parents had that VHS, and like all the people, like I'd go to people's houses and they had Grumpy Old Men on VHS. I don't think I ever watched it because I wasn't interested in watching a movie about old men when I was like 10, but
Yeah, it was.
I just, you know what I mean?
Grumpy Old Men was one of those VHS covers I just remember always seeing.
Yeah.
And so same thing with this one, Out to Sea. I remember seeing this VHS cover all the time, which makes sense because this came out in 97. It was probably on the shelves by 98 in the video stores, and that was the era of VHS rentals. Like,
yeah, it was like peak VHS Blockbuster.
Well, it's not even just
kind of thing.
Blockbuster. It was that's the era when the fucking convenience stores had a wall of VHS tapes and shit, and they'd have all the new releases and stuff. And I remember seeing this cover of Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon just in this dance position. I remember thinking it is a funny cover. That's a funny poster. It's very effective. So, plot of this movie is Walter Matthau is the brother-in-law of Jack Lemmon's, I believe it's his deceased wife. And Jack Lemmon is kind of still hung up on his now deceased wife. So he's a widower, I guess that would be the term you would use. And he hasn't really moved on. And his brother-in-law, Walter Matthau, is like a swindling kind of con man.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
that's cool.
and so Walter Matthau registers him and Jack Lemmon as dance instructors on a cruise ship, so that they get to go on a cruise for free. So basically, they get a free vacation. They just have to work as dance instructors.
They're not intending to dance. They don't know how to dance. They're just
no. Jack Lemmon actually was a big dancer, so actually does know a lot about dancing.
Okay.
So Walter Matthau is basically trying to piggyback off him, being like, all right, well, you know how to do all this shit, so just show me a few moves and then I'll fake it.
And he's trying to prod him into a fun adventure.
Right. He's trying to prod him. He's trying to get him out of his bubble, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And basically stop mourning and move on. And then they get on the ship as dance instructors.
And this is a cruise?
This is a cruise. It's more of like an elderly cruise. So it's less young people. It's more like rich old people.
Mm-hmm.
And the head planner coordinator is played by Brent Spiner. Do you know who that is? It's Data from...
Oh, Data? Okay.
Yeah. He was also in Independence Day.
Yeah.
Brent Spiner, not a name you probably hear all the time.
No.
He is really funny in this movie. He plays like a tight ass, like he's the antagonist, and he's like the tight ass event coordinator of the ship.
Okay.
And he's like got a watchful eye on everything, and he immediately sniffs out those two, like there's something going on with them. And he knows Walter Matthau is kind of full of shit. He reads that immediately. So most of this movie's worth. Oh, I should get back into the plot.
It sounds like another screwball comedy.
It is, and it's more of a screwball comedy than Grumpy Old Men. Grumpy Old Men is like the one that had the most heart. They get more screwball-y as you go down the line. Yeah. So Out to Sea is much more screwball comedy.
Which they're both from that era of screwball comedies, because I believe Jack Lemmon was in those. I think Billy Wilder, wasn't he in like Some Like It Hot or something like that?
Possibly. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. So they get on the ship. They're dance instructors. Brent Spiner is trying to out them as frauds. And while this is going on, Jack Lemmon meets a woman who's also, I believe, a widower and forms a love interest with her. So the majority of the plot is Jack Lemmon getting to know this woman and Walter Matthau dodging Brent Spiner, trying to catch him being a fraud, essentially. And Walter Matthau also has a love interest who it turns out is a con woman.
Oh, okay.
So there's kind of an element there's an element of goofiness to it.
And then it's all stuck on a ship.
And it's all stuck on a ship and
running around.
There's a lot of running
other.
around, hijinks and things like that. Yeah. Is the movie worth watching? I think it is. If you watch Grumpy Old Men and you thoroughly enjoyed yourself and you like this pairing and you like their chemistry, watch it. Watch Out to Sea, because that stuff is still there and it's still good. Mm-hmm. It's not worth owning. It's like a 6.5 out of 10. But they're great. Brent Spiner is also very funny in the movie, and he's not in a lot. Like where he was a main character?
I don't know of anything that he's in other than.
Of course,
Star
I'm
Trek.
sure everybody in the comments is going to be like, what about what about ZB's Big Journey or some bullshit? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but like I don't think of him as like a main guy in a lot of stuff. So it was fun seeing him play a character, and he's very good at playing a like tight ass antagonist.
Yeah.
The comedy of this movie, I'll be honest, Walter Matthau mostly steals the show.
Oh, really?
His antics are so good in this. He's so good at playing a sleazy con man, and he's very good at playing the slickest guy in the room kind of thing. And that's really the character he's playing, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's outwitting the other smart people. Like he kind of, you know, reads everybody.
It sounds a bit like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels type thing. Like that
Yeah, oh
movie.
yeah. It's absolutely like that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely like that. But yeah, it's a good time. Out to Sea, 1997. If you want to watch two old men be dance instructors, you know, you
Run
can
a
do
scam on a ship.
right. You can do a lot worse for goofy 90s movies.
Is it a short movie too? Like
It's hour 40.
okay.
Hour 46. But I mean, 6 minutes of credits. Right?
Yeah.
The ending. I'll be honest. The ending is very like stupid. Yeah, the ending is very like, yeah, okay, whatever.
It's a screwball comedy. So
Yeah, I don't
They usually
expect-
just sort of like
Again,
yeah.
only watch this if you watch Grumpy Old Men, you want more of that chemistry, watch this. It's worth a watch. It's fun. Yeah, it's got some fun shit in it. And
Cool.
again, like fuck, Matthau was 73, I think, when he did Grumpy Old Men. So he's 77. Can you imagine you're 77 years old and you're fucking still acting and you're doing this shit? Like
Running
that-
around on a ship and like I'm assuming doing dance sequences.
Yeah,
and
there's little
shit like
dance
that.
sequences and stuff.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Like you got to give credit. Well, filming a movie's a lot.
yeah.
Like credit where credit's due to these guys for fucking keeping it going. And I think Odd Couple 2 came out. Oh, I'll have to look this up because I want to know when they filmed this because I think it came out after this. I could be wrong though. Yep. Well, Odd Couple 2, 98, came out the year after. How crazy is that? So Matthau's 78 when they're filming this?
Wow.
Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, Burgess Meredith was 85, but still, my God.
So is that the extent of your Matthau Lemon?
Yeah, I
Odyssey?
didn't watch Odd Couple 2 because I've never seen The Odd Couple 1. So
Okay.
I felt it was inappropriate to skip. I wanted to watch it because I was like, oh, hey, it's another.
It's these guys
yeah,
again.
it's these guys
Yeah.
again. I can't speak enough about how great they are. They're a great comedy duo.
Mhm.
They have amazing on-screen chemistry. Apparently they were good friends in real life. I watched a few interviews with them on talk shows from like the 90s.
Yeah.
It was fun watching them promote those movies because again, they're old men at this point where they were long out of the limelight. So it was so cool seeing them on like 90s talk shows, these two older guys from like
Yeah.
Hollywood bygone era promoting a brand new film that they're starring in.
Drumming up all the interest.
I
and
just
being
think
like,
that's
hey,
it was so fun, and they told some funny stories too. So yeah, there you go. So it's Grumpy Old Men, Grumpier Old Men, and Out to Sea. You got three there.
3. Yeah.
That was 3 from the list. Yeah, 3 from the list.
So none going in the collection though, but worth a watch.
I
if you're a fan.
Grumpy Old Men, 100% worth a watch, and use that as the gauge to whether or not you want. If you want a little bit, if you feel like with Grumpy Old Men, you're like, I want a little bit more out of these characters. I just want a little bit more closure. Watch Grumpier Old Men. It's not insultingly bad. It's just like
Yeah.
if Grumpy Old Men's a 7 out of 10, Grumpier Old Men's a 6 out of 10. You're just getting, diminishing returns.
Mhm.
And then Out to Sea, I would say again is like a 6.5 out of 10. But if you want more, if you even want even more out of those guys, then watch that.
Cool.
Yeah, some good stuff though. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, this is part of the thing that I like about watching old stuff is it's just not the shit that is in theaters now. Where
Oh
it's
yeah.
90% superhero films and then CG big budget bullshit.
Franchise stuff.
It's fun. Like the cool thing about that is like that comes from an era where they made like let's call them double A films. You know what I mean? Like so movies that didn't cost $100 million and movies that weren't $1 million, but they were like $20 million. Like remember that? Remember when budgets were more reasonable, where they would make these mid-tier
Yeah.
pictures?
That's gone.
Yeah, I know. They don't do that shit anymore. It's either an
No.
indie movie and they made it for peanuts shot on a fucking iPhone, or they spent $200 million. But there was
There's really no in between. It's been hollowed out. quite a
right,
bit.
but there was a whole era where they would throw like 8-10 million and make these mid-tier films, and a lot of them are fun and worth a watch. You know, and it makes me miss that kind of stuff because every once in a while you get little gems, and it gave more variety at the fucking theater. Fuck, studios used to make a lot of content, and now they spend so much goddamn money on these big budget, you know, built-in audience bullshit pictures that like there's just no money left for them to make little stuff like Out to Sea, you know, fun little little romps.
Those also don't succeed because the only thing that gets asses in seats is like gigantic franchises with built-in audiences. Like,
Well, see, I disagree with that. I think that's fucking bullshit. I
I
think
just
that's
don't
what
think there's
they
an
think.
audience
I think
in-
that's what they think.
but they keep trying comedies and things like that, and they flop because people don't like. People are tight with their money in this economy, and you're going, well, why would I go like spend the money to see like a screwball comedy,
I get what you're saying.
$20 million screwball comedy, when I can just wait for it to come out on streaming?
Yeah, well, okay.
know
Well
what I
then,
mean?
okay. Well then, do that. The streaming services are still making their fucking money. Like the
Yeah.
studios should just each own a streaming service, or I'll agree to use one. Who fucking cares? They're still getting their money. Who cares?
Yeah,
I don't know. I know what you're saying about like the movie. It costs a lot to go to the movie.
I'm just saying it's
but
like, yeah.
I don't. I think it's a little
I
hyperbolic to
agree.
be like
I
no
agree.
one's gonna go see these movies because the problem is I think all the studios think that and they go, well, they're only gonna see one movie a month, so let's not even bother with this shit. And it's like, let's talk about comedy movies in general. They are basically like gone.
yeah.
Like seriously,
It's because they keep failing at the box office.
I'm gonna bring up upcoming. I want to see if I can get a list of upcoming movies, and I don't think like fucking any of them are comedies. I gotta find this somewhere. I had here upcoming movies. Maybe I forgot to bookmark it. I thought I had bookmarked it. Oh, maybe I didn't. Because I wanted to see which, like, the upcoming slate of movies coming out, and I guarantee you the majority of them are not fucking comedies. It's all going to be
Yeah.
like big budget action movies. Hold on a sec here, folks. I'm going to see if I can bring up the movies coming soon for this year.
Looks like it.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you the genre. That's the problem, right? So like we don't know. Like The Mother, is that a comedy movie or is that a, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was hoping we could see the genre. I'll have to work on this another time. I obviously can't do this off the cusp. But can we both agree that comedy movies basically don't really get made anymore?
No, but I'm just saying, I think it's because they don't put asses in seats. Like, I think
Well, then make
The
them
era-
fucking funnier.
the era of the giant gotta go see it in theaters comedy, that ended in like the 2000s and like the early 2010s.
I know what you're saying. Like
Like,
you mean the Judd Apatow type
yeah,
stuff?
the Apatow era. I think the tail end of that was like the last Hangover movie, whichever one, 3 or 4. And then it's just sort of
What was the last big, like, what big box office comedy movie you can think of?
probably the last Hangover movie. I'd have
Was
to
that
guess.
the
I
last
don't know.
one?
I'm not an expert. I'm just,
Like, I'm actually trying to
Guessing.
think, like, what the last one
but
was. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, they just don't make a lot of comedy movies anymore, and it's kind of depressing.
They tried to make
Like, every fucking movie in the movie theaters right now is action or superhero.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. It's like, those are your options. It's like, go see John Wick 4 or whatever latest Marvel bullshit is out there. And then the odd time, what? If you go to like a theater that has a bunch of screens, you might get like a drama film, like something half decent.
Yeah.
But like, and animated movies. Sorry, animated movies, kids movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll always make those. There's one of those
Or,
every other month.
Fast X.
Yeah, but that's an action movie.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Giant
it's action or super.
blockbuster
It's
action
action or
movie.
superhero movie. You got
Yeah.
no other like the variety at the cinema. Action, superhero movie, kids movie. What do you want to watch? In fact, I made a whole video about how our entertainment standards are getting worse. You can find that on this same channel that you're watching this video. So let's try to get that from 100 views to potentially 200.
150 even.
Right? Yeah, I would even take 110. Just give me another 10 people that were like,
Yeah.
he's wrong.
I'm going to dislike that video.
Right, exactly. I want more people to add
Yeah.
to pile on it. Well,
Yeah. So
I mean, I think.
some movies there. Do you want to do a TV show?
I
or do
mean,
you
I
wanna-
don't know. We've been filming now for quite a bit. I think what did we go over? John Carpenter's Vampires. We introduced what the show was going to be about.
Yep.
We wasted all of your nice people's time. I went on a whole fucking thing about Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau and how awesome those movies were. I mean, I can go into something more if you want,
I think that's pretty good.
or we can cap it there. What would you like, Kevin? Would you like another? Would you want a little bit of whipped cream on top of your sundae there? A little bit of extra sprinkles? I mean, this list is never ending.
I think we can cap it there. I don't know.
You heard him, folks. He is cheating you of more content. That was not my decision. So officially, we will have to wrap it up here.
So,
but I mean, in all fairness, we might have some episodes where we only talk about one fucking movie.
yeah.
That might end up being the whole thing.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
But in conclusion, vampires, not great. Grumpy old men, pretty good.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. A follow up, a wrap up of what we talked about. So,
vampires, not great.
Wait.
Okay.
Vampires, Kevin does not recommend.
Okay.
Vampires, I don't think it's terrible. I think
you
it's
have not
okay.
seen it in a while.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I think it's worth a watch if you've never seen it. That's my review. You don't think it's even worth a watch?
It's rough. I mean, give it a shot if you like vampires and you like the general premise of it, but I don't think you'll be I don't think if you're just a John Carpenter fan, you're probably have already seen it.
It doesn't feel like a John Carpenter.
But it doesn't feel, that's a good way to put it. It doesn't feel like a classic John Carpenter
Fuck
movie.
no. Yeah, fuck no. Grumpy Old Men. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. If you like it, maybe check out the sequel. Maybe check out to Sea. Maybe go back and check out their shit from the 60s that was also fucking awesome, which I'll be honest, I'm guilty of not having watched that stuff yet.
Are you going to throw that on the list?
Oh, it's on my list. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I still want to see the original Odd Couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much. Oh, I have seen the original I did watch the original Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau.
Oh, that's
So I
cool.
have seen that.
Yeah. For another episode.
For another episode. Maybe I'll hang on to that one because that will be on there. Yeah, for sure. And
Cool.
then did we talk about anything else we watched? I think that was it.
I think that was everything.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot to set this up, right? So
Yeah.
we had to set up the premise and all that. And we're just
And then some technical issues.
I mean, this is the first time we're filming it. We don't know. I mean, for all we know, nothing was recorded on our mixer, and probably the cameras were just recorded black screens.
The lights are red, so I think that means they're recording. Hopefully.
Probably not. Yeah. The red means error. It means that the cameras are fucked up. That's what that means.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've just been talking into the void for God knows how long.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would have been talking about this shit anyways. We're just talking about it
that's
in
true.
a studio setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. We're good.
Cheers.
Till next time.
Till next time.